we are working on the AC box. I think I'm going to tear this apart and try to clean it up. First thing I want to do is check these vacuum actuators and make sure that they're okay. So the one here on the end is a dual actuator. It has vacuum on either side of it, and it'll move this blend door up and down. So we're going to check yellow, and then we'll check the red. So good engine vacuum somewhere between 17 to 22. I'm going to see low vacuum, like let's do 15. See if it actually actuates the door. I hold this in place. Yeah, and the door goes down. And then it goes back up to its neutral position. Now let's try red. Red's back here. And it should raise the door. All right, there's like 12 inches of vacuum. That holds that up pretty good. All right, so by doing this, I have not only checked the actuator, but I've also checked the vacuum hose in this connector. I'm going to cheat the system because this blue hose is actually for the door in the vehicle. So what I'm going to do is disconnect the red, put on the blue, and if this vacuum hose is okay, then that actuator should work just the way the red one did. And it's holding. So there you go. So we'll put this back where it's supposed to be. So we got a couple more actuators we got to check. Let me move this around and we'll check that one. All right, this one is the orange vacuum line. So let's hold that. Apply some vacuum. Yes. Okay. And it's holding. Very good. Let's go inside the vehicle and we'll check that defrost door, make sure that's working right. One more actuator to go. Let's hook this up, see if I can get a good vacuum pull. That's 15 inches. And it's holding quite well. Love it. Okay. Thank goodness, because these actuators are somewhere between 40 and 50 bucks a pop. Let's take a look down inside the box. So that doesn't look as bad. I've seen a lot worse. So this is pretty good. So the leaf guard did its job, got most of the trash out, but there is debris in there that's going to need to be cleaned out. So I'm going to disassemble this entire box and try to clean everything as best that I can. Let me show you something. This looks like, if you look down in here, you're like, oh, this isn't bad, everything's cool. But let me show you something. With the box on its side, you can see that there's a hole over here. This hole is to allow any water or condensation from the evaporator to drain out. And then you go over here and there's this little rubber door. And this rubber door is there to basically allow water to go past this that comes off of the windshield through that leaf guard. So from the top, it looks like, oh, it's not too bad. Let's look at it from the bottom. Oh, look at that. Let me get this door held up by this vacuum line and get in there. That is almost completely blocked with crap. So even if you're not doing an evap pull, if you're not doing any of this work, it is worth it just to get underneath. If you've got a G-body, check that flap, make sure it's clean. If it's not, get in there with a screwdriver or something and clean that out. Because what will happen is if that gets completely blocked, the rainwater will build up inside that well, and then at some point it will overflow into the inside of the car, and then eventually you're going to get rusted out floor pans. So you don't want any of that, so check this real quick, make sure that's good to go. Let's get into tearing this thing apart. First we're going to get rid of these electrical connectors. Pop these off and out of the way. So remember how I said that you're going to have metric and standard side by side. And here you go. 7mm you're going to need for a couple of these brackets. I'll sit that up here for now. All of these bolts that hold down this top cover plate, they're all 1/4 inch. So I'm going to start taking off these 1/4 inch bolts, and then we'll get to the 7mm bolts on the brackets. Okay, let's get this bracket off here. This is 7mm. Oh. 1/4 inch hiding here. Let me get that one. Let's get this 7mm on this bracket right here. It holds the one tube for the evaporator onto this bracket. So we'll get that loose. That way we can, there we go. Swing this out of the way so that's not going to get bent. I think that should be it. Let's get all these 1/4 inch bolts out of the way. So we're going to be quite careful with this. Again, I've said this multiple times, everything on this vehicle, all this plastic, it's all over 30 years old. So what we don't want to do is end up busting something. So if you can get a flat blade in to a spot, try not to force it, just rock it back and forth, and you can start to see some of these, if they've been cracked into before, they'll use a sealant on this and it'll be super glued to this. And I had one on a Caprice that it's like an 85 Caprice that I had. I ended up cracking the housing in like a couple of spots just because the heater core had been replaced, or the evaporator or something, and they had glued it down with I don't know what, but it did not want to come back up, and I ended up having to break it in a couple of spots just to get it loose. So just be patient, it's starting to move. So it's just stock, it's like this, it's like Dum Dum. It's just a rubber sealant that's in there. So start on this side. Okay, this side looks like it's pretty loose. I'm going to go around and try the same thing on the other side. See if I can find a spot where I can get my screwdriver in. Just rock it in a couple of spots. The side's pulled up. Okay, I think this may come off now. There it is. So that's the whole underside. There's the cage, a squirrel cage for your blower motor, a resistor, everything. Everything looks good too. I don't see any major signs of damage, so we're going to sit this off to the side. So I told you that I would explain this ground wire that is hooked up. Let me see if I can get this foam loose. It's hard to tell. This may be, with the mileage that was on it when I got it, I'm going to say a lot of this stuff is going to be stock components. So this ground wire that goes to the firewall is hooked to the top of the connector for the heater core. So I looked online, and there's a lot of theory behind this. So the coolant, because of the glycol in the coolant, sometimes can go through or actually turn a bit acidic over time. And you'll get electrolysis that'll happen in the system. And basically this thing can become cathodic, and then the radiator may become anodic, or basically it's like a cathode and anode. And you can actually have a small amount of voltage go through your coolant system. And one way to check that is to take a voltmeter and put the negative to the negative on the battery, and then put the positive into the coolant while the engine is running and the coolant is flowing. Make sure you don't touch any metal on the sides. Put it directly into the center where it's touching nothing but coolant. And if you get, and check AC and DC both. I know it's a direct current system, but sometimes the alternator goes bad. You might have some AC in the system. So just check both, direct current and AC. And if you've got 0.4 volts or more, you might want to think about changing your coolant out, because it might have gotten to the point where it's acidic. So basically this ground strap is supposed to ground out the heater core and then stop it from corroding itself on the inside. So it's just electrolysis is what it's doing. So this, and there's a lot of argument online about whether this is necessary or not. It came from the factory with this ground strap on it, so I think I'm going to keep it. Even though the heater core that I have, this one is copper, and the one I have I believe is aluminum. So I'm not even sure if it's needed anymore. But like I said, it came from the factory with it. I might either clean this one up if it can be cleaned up and it's okay to use. If not, I'll buy another one. And I'm just going to, I might buy another one just to make it longer, and then bolt it farther down on the firewall so you can't see it. Anyway, so this is the heater core. So you've got inlet and outlet for your coolant. So it goes through here, and basically the blower motor pushes that hot air that's emitting off of this into the car. That's how you get your heat. This is the evaporator. So this is your AC system. An evaporator does just what it says. The freon that goes into this evaporates. So you've got your compressor pushing out high pressure gas, and it goes to the condenser at the front of the vehicle. That's the big grill. That's the big radiator in front of your coolant radiator. So with fresh air and with the coolant fan moving air past that, it changes it from a high pressure gas to a high pressure liquid. It comes around to the orifice tube, and it gets turned from a high pressure liquid to a low pressure liquid, and it goes into the evaporator. And basically what happens is it goes in a low pressure liquid at the bottom, and then this thing extracts hot air out of the surrounding air around it, and the freon inside evaporates as it rises to the top and then makes its way out. And that evaporation is what makes this thing so cold, and that's what cools the vehicle. And then it goes back to the compressor, and then it starts all over again, and it just constantly is pumping that. So that's why your level of freon in this is so important. If you don't have enough, it may come in with not enough pressure, and then it doesn't evaporate properly, so you might get not full evaporation out of this, and then it won't cool the way it should. So, and the same thing with overpressurization. If it overpressurizes, it's the same thing. It's got to be right in that sweet spot, or it won't work correctly. All right, so the top is off. I'm gonna look and see if there's. I'm gonna get these out in a little bit, but I'm gonna look and see if there's anything else I can disconnect to clean this up. The gas, I got to break out the gasket kit as well, because I have a new seal kit for everything on this, so I can seal it back up. So let me turn this off and look at some stuff, and I'll be back. Well, I think I'll start here by taking the heater core and the evaporator out. since I've left the accumulator attached, if I come down here, there is a 10mm bolt that holds this circular clamp that holds the accumulator in place. So if I get this loose, I think I should be able to just pull the thing up as a unit. There. Now let's see if we can get this thing yanked out. Oh, look at all the crud down at the bottom. Well, good thing I'm doing this, huh? Now onto the heater core. There's one bolt at the top that holds this ground strap. It also holds this clip that presses this down in place. There's a 5/16 screw. Get that out. And then the thing just flops loose. I think I'll keep the ground strap with that. So this clip holds that in place. So we put that off to the side. And then we can just lift this thing right out. Nothing to it. So now with the unit up on its side, I am going to take the rightmost part of the housing off, which will give me more access to the door underneath, because it looks like the foam backing or whatever that's on there is completely deteriorated. So if it doesn't come in the kit, I'm going to have to find a way to maybe make some type of replacement for that, because it's all goobered up. So there's 4 external screws that need to come out. They're all 1/4 inch, and there's one bugger that's up inside the vent. So let me show you that one. So looking at it from another angle, you can see down inside there, there's one 1/4 inch screw that's holding onto that metal plate, so that needs to come loose in order to get the housing out. So I'm going to take that one out, and then I'll take the 4 on the outside. With those 5 screws removed, this side of the housing should separate and come off, and this vacuum actuator and the door inside should come with it. Be very careful. The shaft that door pivots on, the end of it sticks through the end of the plastic here. So when you pull this out, make sure that you pull it away from the plastic so you don't jack that pin up or mess it up somehow. So that needs to come straight back. So now with all the screws out, I should be able, yeah, so that pulls right out. So that's cool. Let me back the camera up a little bit and we'll take this off. Alright, so let's get our yellow and red vacuum lines removed. So we're going to be separating this from the rest of the housing. Alright, so taking that one bolt out off this metal thing gave it a chance to pivot and get it out. Before I tried leaving it in and I was having a hard time down here with this cutout. So that one screw removed gave me just enough movement to get this thing out. So let me sit this off to the side, and you can see how deteriorated that fabric is on the inside. So I don't know if that comes with a kit, but I'm going to have to do something to freshen that up. So now that side of the housing is off, we're going to take off this inner blower housing. So you can see there's one 1/4 inch screw down there, and if we come over here, if you can see it, it was inside a bunch of goo, but there's another 1/4 inch screw there, and then there's one around the back. Hold on. So there it is. This is over by the vacuum actuated door. There's 1/4 inch screw there. Take those 3 out and you should be able to take that inner blower housing out. Three screws out. It's kind of gummed in there, but this thing should miss a screw somewhere. There we go. So this housing will come out. This is a blower housing. So we're going to take this and sit this off to the side and keep going. With the inner blower case out, you can see that there's this metal bracket that's lays up next to the cold and hot blend door. There's a 1/4 inch screw in there that needs to come out, and then we come over to this side and there is a screw up in there on the other side of that blend door housing that needs to come out. We'll take those 2 out and then we'll move around to the back side. Never taken one of these apart before, but I'm pretty sure that this rod for the blend door goes with that, and I think this pivot and this back part of the housing is going to stay with that. So if you can see, I've marked either side of the rod to kind of give me an idea where to put this thing back, and then it should just push out of this clip. There we go. So now we'll have those 2. This thing is so fragile, I'm definitely making sure that this thing is kept okay. So I think I finally run out of screws. So there's 4 1/4 inch screws on the back here of this housing. I don't think there's anything else holding this together. I think there's one more piece that comes off when these 4 come out, and then the housing will basically be in about 4 pieces. And then and then I get to clean all this crap up. It is some kind of messy in there. Let's see if I can get this thing loose. Obviously, comes out here. All right, that part's off. Move that to the side. And now with that back side off, I should be able to slide this up. Yeah. All right. There's the whole blend door assembly. Nice and neat. So now with everything torn down to its base components, I can begin to clean all this up. Yay! So there it is. That's the entire thing. The entire AC box taken apart, broken down into 6 major components. So now what's left to do is to clean everything up and then replace the seals that are provided in the kit, and what's not provided I just need to assess and make sure everything is in good working order. So I think I'm going to stop here on this video. We'll make this a part 1, and then part 2 will be cleanup and reassembly. Do me a favor, pray for me. This is a hot, gooey mess that I'm going to have to clean up. So that'll be the next video. I think that's it for now. See you guys.